Hello, and thank you for the opportunity to make an interview with you. Now that the mainstream media is disappearing, the social media grows up quickly, and you're the king of X, Elon Musk's platform. And I know that you're up to date with the world's geopolitical situation, especially Europe's. And everyone is talking about you in Romania. You've just interviewed Călin Georgescu about the oligarchic control on European Union, especially Romania. George Soros's network has extended its influence across European governments. And now there's a fight for the people's freedom. You are up to date with Romania's situation. And this weekend, Germany is holding elections. Do you think they have the nerve to manipulate the elections there as they did it in Romania?
I don't think so. I think after J.D. Vance's speech, Europeans are more aware of this. And I don't even think it's going to work in Romania. I just see people see right through it. And despite the comments by your judge in the last couple of days, I think it's just not sustainable. I'm surprised they're still trying. I'm surprised they haven't started walking back their comments. But I'm pretty confident that Germany's democracy is stronger than Romania. But then again, I never expected this to happen in Romania either. So it's a possibility. But I'd be extremely surprised. I'd be extremely shocked.
I think the Germans' democracy is still working. I don't know about the Romanians one.
But look, Romania is on the edge of no longer being a democracy. It's on that edge. It's a very, very tricky time for Romania. Germany's far from it. Germany's taking jabs at democracy, especially with their obsession with censoring. I think this is one of my biggest concerns with Germany. And then you can talk about their stranglehold in the EU, but that's a separate discussion. That's more on the democracy of other European countries, other sovereign nations. But when it comes to Romania, with that ship has sailed. Romania has gone above and beyond. You guys have literally cancelled an election and are doubling down on it. For me, that's unimaginable. I actually I had a meeting with, I'm just seeing if I can disclose it. I had a meeting with, I think, I won't disclose it yet, but I had a meeting with someone very close to the former Prime Minister of Pakistan, Imran Khan. Imran Khan has been politically targeted. I interviewed Imran Khan weeks before he got arrested, and we could be doing a very major interview regarding that story there in Pakistan. But even then, in Pakistan, with Imran Khan in jail right now, they didn't cancel an election. They cracked down on him, similar to what they're doing in Bolsonaro. They're going after him legally. That's lawfare in action. That's what the US tried to do and failed. But what happened in Romania is they kind of skipped that step and they went through cancel an election, and now they're going through the process of lawfare, trying to prevent Călin Georgescu from running in the election in a few weeks, in May 6th, I think it is.
Yeah, because the opposition keeps facing accusation of the Russian interference. Like, come on. We've seen the same narrative used in the US against President Donald Trump. Do you see any similarities between Călin Georgescu
It's one of the stupid, a lot of similarities, a lot. First, the entire story is very similar. One has a happy ending and one, the ending doesn't look too happy yet. With Trump, he won. The whole framing of Russian interference backfired badly on those behind it, and it helped Trump once people found out what the truth was. And obviously Trump is president now. With Romania, there's some Romanians that for some reason, I think just because of how your TV stations are just controlled by the narrative, by the establishment, I think these people are way more brainwashed than they are in the US. In the US, you still have freedom of the press. You still have multiple TV stations. The biggest one is Fox News, which is conservative. You have a lot of independent journalists. You have X right now being a massive platform. I think one of the biggest weaknesses in Romania is X doesn't have as much traction as it should. And I think once Romanians really understand how important X is for democracy in times like these, when the media is being weaponized against one political party, I think it will gain a lot more traction. But the downside, the risk of that is it will get banned like it did in Pakistan and temporarily in Brazil. That's my concern, that even if X gains traction, it might eventually get banned.
You were saying brainwashed. As you well know, US aid pumped a lot of money in our mainstream media. And now the European Union is pumping a lot of money, and they are saying on the TV.
Hold on, USAID is not Russian. The European Union is not Russian. Am I missing something?
Yeah.
I thought it's Russian interference. I'm confused.
They cannot find something else. But it's interesting that now they are saying on Romanian television that Trump wants to push World War III, and he wants to make Yalta all over again. It's crazy, you know.
He wants to push World War III?
Yeah, that's what says Antenna 3, CNN from Romania. And they keep saying that Yalta could happen again. It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
You know, there's peace negotiations now. He's about to meet President Putin. They're about to meet together. So I don't know how that's World War III. I think that's the complete opposite of World War III. That's ending the war. Now, is it right for Ukraine? Is the ending going to be positive for Ukrainians? That's a whole different discussion. But when it comes to World War III, the complete opposite is happening. I did a post, I think it was before or after. I did it after Romania. I did a post, an unpopular opinion, because, you know, everyone likes to follow the same opinion like sheep all the time. My unpopular opinion is, right or wrong, Russia and the US are going to become allies again in the near future, because it strategically makes sense. The US's main rival right now is China. It's not Russia. Russia was an ally to the US many, many decades ago, 80 whatever years ago, during World War II. So it strategically makes sense for the US and Russia that wanted to join NATO, that was very friendly with the US. You know, Putin was the first world leader to call George Bush after 9/11. You know, Putin supported the US in the Afghanistan war and allowed them to use their airspace. Now, that's the same President Putin that's now in an indirect war with the US. So you can see how there was a massive shift from a friendly relation between Russia and the US to where we are a month ago. And so it's not too unfathomable for us to go back 20 years and to have those positive relations that we had in the early 2000s and the late 1990s. So I think it's heading in the right direction, but I think I just don't understand how the hell the media could frame it as World War III. Whereas they can be against the peace deal, they can be anti-Trump, but black is black, white is white. A peace negotiation is not World War III.
Of course. And they are starting to make Americans like enemies, because Europe doesn't want to change. You know, Ilie Bolojan, the Angry Birds, if you know what I mean, Romania's interim president, traveled to Paris to meet with French President Emmanuel Macron. And his visit was to report on Romania's military status and financial capacity to support Ukraine's war effort with the new package from the EU of 10 billion euros.
Romania was invited to the emergency meeting by Macron.
Not the main summit, but the second summit only for Romania. It's crazy. However, Romania's Minister of Finance just announced that the country reserve fund is empty, and they want to send money and military to Ukraine. Meanwhile, the Romanian people overwhelmingly oppose the war and want peace. How can we stop this without resorting to violence, given that we are not like those pushing the war agenda?
I think the European Union continuing this war without American support is going to be it's just foolish, because America is getting closer to Russia, your neighbor, a closer neighbor to Romania than France. So a war is more negative to you guys than anyone else. Economically, all those neighboring countries, and I was with the Prime Minister of Slovakia 2-3 days ago. I think it was 2 days ago. And the amount of damage the war has caused Slovakia's economy is insane. Like, energy prices is taking a massive hit. Inflation is taking a hit. So a peace agreement between the West and the East and Russia is incredibly positive, mostly to the countries, the European countries between West Europe and Russia, where all the gas flows and there's all these trade agreements. So for you guys to try to continue the war after a peace agreement is just shooting yourselves in the foot. Again, I'm not talking about what's right or wrong. That's a separate discussion, philosophical discussion, or from an ethical perspective. I'm talking what's strategically important for Romania. What President Trump is doing is what's strategically important for the US, not the world, not for Europe, not for Romania. He cares about the US. And Calin Georgescu said to me he respects that. Prime Minister Fico said to me he respects that. Even if he gets tariffs from the US, like, I respect it, because Trump is doing what's best for the US. I should be doing what's best for Slovakia, and Your president should be doing what's best for Romania. And that's not going against a democratically elected president, and that's not supporting a never-ending war.
We hope that they are not going to cancel the elections again because of the war, because they really want to push the war in order to stop elections everywhere, like they did in Ukraine, just not so long ago, before the war. Călin Georgescu has called for all Romanians who want peace to gather in Bucharest on Saturday, 22nd of February. I expect hundreds of thousands to attend.
Oh, wow.
But will that be enough to stop Soros's and Ursula von der Leyen's war agenda?
If it's consistent, it could. It just depends how far the establishment is willing to go. I think I have hope in Romania's political system, despite everything we're seeing. I don't think they'll go as far as what we saw in Pakistan. Pakistan is one extreme. People were killed, people were jailed. What happened there is just disgusting. It's opposite of them. There is no longer democracy. A massive country, massive military, democracy is destroyed. That's gone. In the US, democracy is saved. Romania is in the middle. I think if Romanian authorities, if you're a Romanian establishment, those in power right now, are constantly pressured and they see the tide moving against them, there is a breaking point. Everyone has a breaking point. It's just how far are they willing to go before they break? And I think what we need is, people on the streets, people making their voices heard. I know it's very cold in Romania. And the second one is we need change in the EU. I think the EU has a lot of influence on what's happening in Romania, and I've seen the influence they have on different countries. Remember, I was with the former Prime Minister of Poland 2 days before I went to Romania, so about a week ago. And Mateusz was telling me what the EU did to him to try to get him to, pressure him to eventually lose the election and abide by their requests. So if we start seeing a shift in the EU, and we're starting to see that, we're starting to see blocks that are against the establishment gain more traction, and hopefully that continues. If we continue seeing that, then hopefully we'll see more pressure beyond the US on the Romanian establishment. Because we saw, you remember, Trump sent an envoy recently to pressure Romanians. Doesn't seem like they budged, though, after the comments from the judge. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's very crazy, and we hope for more support from all over the world. I want to ask you, what do you think about Elon Musk's post, Romania deserves its own sovereignty?
He has the biggest voice in the world. And, he's a private citizen. He's not representing the American government. Sometimes he says things that even Trump doesn't like, which I respect tremendously. Remember when he spoke negatively about the AI fund that Trump was announcing with OpenAI and a bunch of others. Oracle, I think, was there. And Elon was very critical of them. So he was against Trump on that front. They're contrary. So it just shows Elon's his own person with his own opinions as a private citizen. And at least it's a private citizen that supports free speech, that supports freedom, even if it means those against him get a voice. And for him to use his voice to support Romania is something that is great. But I also want to tell Romanians, you need to stop relying on the US. You need to stop relying on Trump and Elon and JD Vance. I know the US is the biggest democracy in the world. I know it's kind of the pinnacle that everyone aims to achieve. But the US cares about the US. They'll talk about Romania. They'll talk about Germany. But at the end of the day, their priority is the US. The EU needs to really prioritize what, your own countries. Romania prioritize Romania, and the EU prioritize the EU as well. And that means finding people from within, finding leaders from within, working together. Like if George Simeon and Călin Georgescu partner further, I've interviewed both. They're both great men, very smart men. I think they'll both make great leaders for Romania. If they both work together, there is no way that the establishment will be in power for long, having both of them collaborate. And that applies not only for Romania, that applies for the EU. If we have all these different blocks, all these different movements, work and be less fractured, work together and be less fractured, we'll see a massive shift spread across different EU countries. And we're seeing that already. And I think we'll continue seeing that. I'll try to play my part as well in bringing all sides together, because you guys have a lot more in common than you have in opposite directions.
Any final thoughts for us to be empowered and to fight for our democracy?
Yeah, I think I'll just repeat. Everyone has a breaking point. So I think you need to keep pushing, because once you get distracted by a war, or once you get distracted by some event, you get distracted by a news story, when that happens, you lose focus of the main thing. That's a very common strategy. Romans were very good at doing it back in the day. They used to do all these different gladiator competitions and chariot games to get people's attention away from the things that matter. Don't let that happen to Romania. I know you're busy. Everyone's busy with their work. I know everyone's busy with paying the bills. Romania's going through poverty, but there's a lot of corruption in your country. Your country system is extremely, extremely flawed. That's coming from someone that does business in Romania, had a team in Romania, has a team in Romania, and spent a lot of time in Bucharest. So my message to you is, I think in the short term pain, to keep fighting for not only democracy, but for your system to be turned upside down, and to finally have an efficient system like we saw in the US with Doge. It will pay off in the long term. And I think Romania has the potential to be a very, very, very prosperous nation. I personally think Călin Georgescu, even George Simeon, but Călin Georgescu, who you guys voted as president, will make a great president. And any words, I interviewed the guy and I spoke to him privately before the interview and after the interview. There is not an ounce of being pro-Russian. He's the complete opposite. Prime Minister Fico, who's very balanced, he was more pro-Russian than Călin Georgescu, and he's a prime minister and everyone's fine with him. He's doing great for his country. Viktor Orban, pro-Russian means being diplomatic with Russia, a neighbor of you guys, a neighbor of you, of Slovakia and Hungary and Romania and all the other countries in the Eastern Bloc. So if Călin is diplomatic with Russia, that's exactly what Romania needs. That's exactly, you don't need an enemy at your doorsteps. You need trade with Russia. You need trade with the US. You need trade with Ukraine. And that's how you prosper as a nation. You need a democracy, and you need less red tape and less corruption. So I'm really hopeful, and I'll do my small part in bringing attention to this, because I feel very frustrated by what I'm seeing. But I hope we see more Romanians and Europeans do the same as well.
The key word here is peace, and Călin Georgescu talks it about every single time. And I will fight for the peace until the end. Thank you very much for this interview, and I hope what we discussed today will go all over the planet. And please, everyone who's seeing this, start empowering Romanian citizens to give back their democracy. Thank you very much again. And I hope to see you in better circumstances.
When I will come to Romania, once we have a new president, then I feel comfortable coming back.
Perfect. Thank you very much, man.